Hello and welcome. Today we shall be reading the Book of Tea and Herbs, Appreciating the Varietal and Virtues of Fine Tea and Herbs, a practical guide from the Ministry of Information. There is a foreword, and it says, dedicated to the memory of William H. Ookers from 1873 through 1954. They say, honorary minister of propaganda, who paved the path of tea from past to present, and whose spirit infuses every page of this book. There's more. It says, reflections on my reflection in a cup of tea. With each sip I taste the fire that gives its heat, the water that gives its wetness, the leaf that gives its spell, the pot that gives its emptiness. With each lingering sip, I cannot help but see all that makes tea as well makes me, the minister of leaves. There's a stamp that says, the Republic of Tea. Dear fellow people of tea, what is tea? Where does tea come from? How is tea good for health? What are the best ways to brew and appreciate tea? How is herb tea different from black or green tea? Which herbs make the most delicious tea? In our travels outside the Republic of Tea, we have heard these questions many times in the spirit of apologies. In our travels outside of the Republic of Tea, we have heard many questions. We have heard these questions many times. In the spirit of public service, we decided it was time to share the answers. This book, originally intended for our Republic's ambassadors, is a guide to the beguiling mysteries of the brewable leaves, tea from the Camellia sinensis bush, and herbs from a host of other useful and flavorful plants. Every book, like every cup of tea, is a journey of discovery. On behalf of the Republic of Tea, I invite you to discover yourself among the leaves of this one. Signed, Progress, the Minister of Progress. I realized I forgot to mention the date of this book. It says the copyright is 1993 by the Republic of Tea. Section 1. Tea. Tea is the teacher, being is the teaching, the minister of leaves. Chapter 1. An introduction to the plant, the leaf, and the manufacture of tea. E. A definition. There are many teas, but only one plant. That plant is Camellia sinensis, a relative of the flowering camellia. Oh, correction. Camellia, well known to gardeners. Incredible as it seems, the few leaves that sprout at the very top of this plant, and this plant only, are what is transformed into all types of tea: black, green, and oolong. Camellia sinensis leaves are not the source of herb teas, properly known as infusions, which are discussed in Section 2. The leaves contain caffeine, and so do all the teas made from them in varying amounts. One plant? Many teas? How can it be? This is the fascinating mystery of tea. To understand it, consider a comparison to wine. One species, Vitis vinifera, is responsible for nearly all the wine drunk in the world. Yet, no conscientious student would mistake a delicate white Chardonnay for a robust Pinot Noir or an effervescent champagne. So it is with tea. As with wine grapes, subtle differences of soil, elevation, and climate all affect the character of tea leaves. The whims of weather cycles, early morning. Not what that says. The whims of weather cycles, early monsoon, late monsoon, drought are also crucial, and a great deal of tea's character comes from the choice of leaves picked and how they are treated or manufactured after they are plucked from the branches. Tea is an evergreen shrub in the wild. Oh, that was a sentence. Just that. Tea is an evergreen shrub. In the wild, they may grow as tall as 60 feet or taller. When cultivated for harvest, the tea bush is continually pruned to about 3 feet, 5 feet if it is susceptible to the lamentable practice of mechanical harvesting. From the air, the plantings resemble a dense green mat, faintly furrowed by the narrow serpentine paths between the bushes. Even if it spans hundreds of acres, a tea plantation is called a garden. On the next page, it shows a map of major tea growing regions. It shows me pictures of the Southeast Asia. It shows China, India, Sri Lanka, an array of countries I do not know off the top of my head. Taiwan and Japan are the ones that are labeled here. There are also other labels. It shows Darjeeling and Assam between India and China. It shows Nilgiri, Nilgiri, towards almost south of India. It shows a blacked out section towards the bottom right of China that is labeled Anhui, Anhwie, Zhejiang, Zhejiang, Fujian, Fujian, and Yunnan, Yunnan. Oh, I missed one. Underneath Sri Lanka, it says Ceylon. Underneath Taiwan, it says Formosa. And there are 3 listed underneath Japan. It says Saitama, Shikoku, Shikoku, and Kyushu, Kyushu. Now I am somewhat realizing I should probably say I only speak English and it is my first language, so I apologize for the pronunciations. Again, like I was saying, I only speak English, and English is my first language, so I apologize if I thoroughly, of any degree, butchered any of those names. Our next section says, the tea belt, where tea grows. Tea is indigenous to the part of the world we now call China, Tibet, and northern India. Over the centuries, it has been transplanted far and wide, and today is successfully cultivated within a geographic belt that runs from the equator to 42 degrees north. Tea is commercially cultivated in places as diverse as Russia, Kenya, and Argentina. It thrived experimentally in South Carolina for 25 years, around the turn of the 19th century, but proved too expensive to produce commercially. The great teas of the world, however, come from a handful of countries. Most prominently, China, Formosa, Taiwan, is in parentheses, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, is in parentheses, Japan, and India. Okay, I have to apologize. If Ceylon and Formosa are supposed to be other names for Sri Lanka and Taiwan, please take them out of my earlier list about, I think, different teas from different places. That does not make sense. That's if how I read that does not make sense earlier, if that's the case. Now we are in how climate and elevation affect tea. The soil, the elevation, the climate, the sunshine, the rain, the tea. Body, mind, equanimity, harmony, water, tea. The minister of leaves. A hardy bush, the tea plant thrives in tropical. A hardy bush, the tea plant thrives in tropical and subtropical climates, with warm temperatures, plenty of shade, usually supplied by carefully selected shade trees, an abundant rainfall of 80 to 100 inches a year. Seasonal monsoon rains, which bring torrential rains and temperatures of up to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, inspire the leaves' growth spurts. The finest teas grow at elevations of 3,000 to 6,000 feet in a relatively cooler climate that slows the growth of the leaves. Slight differences in elevation can produce remarkable differences in the size and quality of the leaf. The mountainous terrain in Darjeeling in northern India and Okay, if the names I listed off earlier are all meant to be places, I thoroughly apologize. I got that all wrong. But moving forward, the mountainous terrain in Darjeeling in northern India and the hilly gardens of Ceylon require intricate patchworks of plantings that curve along mountain slopes. Lush. The sprouting of new leaves and buds on the tea bush is called a flush. Tea plants may flush 2, 3, or more times within the growing season. In Java and Sumatra, where there is no cold season, tea flushes all year round and may be plucked every 7-10 days. In drier, mountainous areas, bee gardens may produce only a single flush each season. The most famous flushes come from Darjeeling, where each flush has its own distinct character, and the first flush in the early spring is celebrated like the release of Nouveau Beaujolais wine in France. Apologies to French. Pretty sure I butchered that. And for more about Darjeeling flushes, please see Chapter 4 in this section. We're gonna get there. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe in the future, but we'll get there. Next we have tea varietals. Camellia sinensis reproduces by cross-pollination. Pollen is transferred from the flowers of one plant to those of another. Because in nature, this process yields random results, commercial growers produce tea plants either from seedlings, the cheap and efficient method, or through cuttings from a desirable parent plant. They consider that the superior but more laborious method. The difference is, for the seedlings, there will most likely be more diversity, even though they are aware of the plants they breed together, whereas the cutting, the simplest explanation I can give you, is basically a clone of the plant, or just a baby version of the exact same plant. There should be no genetic diversity in the cutting of one plant to another. Some 2,000 varietals of tea, distinct subspecies with their own appearance and characters, have been identified and cultivated. Different growing areas are known for specific tea varietals, rather as different grape growing areas are known for the varietal wines, such as Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. There are more teas in China than there are wines in France. A tea connoisseur can identify a tea varietal by its leaf size, shape, color, and fragrance. Some varietals produce outstanding beverages on their own. Others are best in blends. Two leaves and a bud. Although a tea bush needs to be at least 3 years old and 3 feet tall before it is harvested, tea pluckers look only at the uppermost inch or two, where the youngest, most tender leaves are found. Fine, full-leaf teas are made only from these young shoots, at most a single bud and 2 leaves. For centuries, perhaps millennia, tea was harvested and processed only by hand in what is called the orthodox method, where quality is paramount and the full leaf is respected. It still is. The process is beautiful to watch. The harvesters, usually women in colorful saris with straw hats or white headcloths, wind gracefully through the bushes, nipping off the topmost inch with the fingernails and dropping the leaves into baskets on their backs. They are paid according to the weight and the quality of the leaves they pick. 20th century haste under the twin banners of efficiency and convenience has increasingly brought harvesting machines into the garden. These machines are indiscriminate, snatching not only the traditional 2 leaves and a bud, but often the entire branch, twigs and all. Thus, rudely ripped from its place of repose, the tea is subjected to further mechanical insults in the form of tearing and crushing. The result is stuffed into tea bags, quite understandably, the initials CTC, industry jargon for this cut, torn, crushed process, evoke a shudder from lovers of the leaf. Does leaf size matter? Before they are processed, tea leaves may vary dramatically in size. The fanciest Formosan and Chinese oolongs are made from very long leaves that curl during processing, but open intact when infused with boiling water. Watch her. At the other extreme, Keemun or Keemun, the celebrated black tea of Anhui, China, is made from camellia plants having a naturally small, compact leaf. Within each varietal's natural range, teas are graded according to the size of their leaf, and the general rule of thumb is the larger the leaf, the more distinct the flavor. Black, green, and oolong. On this page, there is a set of pictures. One picture says Darjeeling Black. It looks like if you had a oblong leaf and evenly cut sections out of it. The second one says Guzhong Maojian. Green. It looks like thin, small leaves and what most likely is a thin, soft, herbaceous stem. Then the last picture says Formosa oolong. It looks like the same type of leaf as the black tea one, but a bit smaller, and they curl a little bit towards the inside, with a small, what might be either the end of the stem or new growth leaf towards the middle. Back to reading. Whether a tea leaf ends up being called black, fermented, green, unfermented, or oolong, semi-fermented, is determined during the process of manufacture. Tea manufacture is by and large a matter of skilled manual labor. Black tea. To create black tea, or red tea as it is known in China for the beautiful liquor color it produces, or liqueur color I'm liquor or liqueur color it produces. The leaves are plucked, then treated in a 4-step process. Withering removes moisture from the freshly plucked leaf so that it can be rolled. Leaves are spread uniformly on trays or racks in a cool room for 18 to 24 hours. By the end of this stage, the leaves have lost 1/3 to 1/2 of their weight through evaporation and are soft and pliable. Rolling the leaf, second step, readies it for transformation. Fine first-grade teas are rolled by hand, painstakingly curling each leaf longitudinally, twisting it slightly in the process. This breaks apart the cells in the leaf, releasing enzymes that will interact with air and cause oxidation, also known as fermentation. Also, twisted leaves release their flavor more slowly when they are infused. Many teas are now machine rolled. It is 70 times faster than the hand rolling method, but hand rolling preserves the tip, which is regarded as a sign of quality. Fermentation changes the chemical structure of the tea leaf, allowing key flavor characteristics to emerge. It does not, however, make tea an alcoholic beverage. The rolled leaves are spread on cement or tile floors and tables in a cool, humid room. They are carefully monitored for the next 1 to 5 hours for proper color and pungency. Generally, the longer the leaf ferments, the softer its taste and deeper its color. Firing is the step that stops fermentation. The leaves are placed in hot pans similar to woks or in large modern dryers where a constant temperature of 120 degrees Fahrenheit can be maintained. The leaves turn black and lose all but 3% of the original moisture. Improper firing can cause off color, a loss of flavor and aroma, blistering, mold, and spoilage. Finally, the tea is sorted, graded, and packed in wooden chests that have been lined with foil to prevent the intrusion of unwelcome flavors and aromas. Green tea. Leaves intended for green tea are plucked in the same manner as black tea. They are then manufactured in 3 stages, completed within a single day. Pan firing or steaming occurs immediately after the leaves are plucked. The leaves are placed in a metal pan over a hot flame to render them soft and pliable. The sudden exposure to heat destroys the enzymes that would otherwise lead to fermentation. Rolling the leaves on heated trays to reduce the moisture content is the next step. The process is done with the fingers and palms, and sometimes with the entire forearm up to the elbow. Firing in large mechanical dryers is the final stage of drying. Fired green tea retains only 2% of its moisture. Some green teas produced for export are rolled and fired several times. Although this increases their shelf life, it may also impair their taste and character. Green tea is then sorted by leaf size and packed. The finest and most delicious grades are often put into metal tins or vacuum packed to preserve their freshness. Oolong. This process, whose name in Chinese means black dragon, is a relative newcomer in tea manufacture. Developed in Formosa only in the mid-19th century, it combines elements of both fermented and unfermented processes. The leaves are picked just as they reach their peak and processed immediately. Withering and a brief fermentation are combined for a total of 4 to 5 hours in direct sunlight. The leaves are spread 3 or 4 inches deep in large bamboo baskets and shaken frequently to bruise the leaf edges, making them oxidize faster than their centers. This stage is halted when the leaves give off a characteristic fragrance, often compared to apples, orchids, or peaches. Firing halts fermentation when it is about half complete. Baskets full of leaves are moved in and out of the flames of a charcoal fire. Finally, the tea is sorted for size and color and packed into foil-lined wooden chests for transport. In this picture, on this next page, we have 3 different pictures. One of them says whole leaves. It shows pictures of long, withered pieces. The book's in black and white of what is presumed to be tea leaves. Then it says fannings or bonnings, and it shows what looks like big specks of what can look like chunks of dirt. Then it shows a picture of dust, which kind of resembles what you would probably see in a tea bag or at the bottom of a container of dried herbs. How tea is graded. Black, green, or oolong, the tea is now almost ready to be packed away in chests and shipped for sale. First, though, it is sorted, sifted by machine or hand to determine its size. Whole leaf, broken/small leaf, fannings, or dust. Whole leaf is large and intact. Broken or small leaf may be either a smaller grade or slightly torn. Fannings are even smaller fragments of leaf, and dust is whatever is left from processing. Tea is also graded according to its quality. Fine quality black tea is characterized by its tip. The tips of the leaves do not add to the flavor of tea, but their presence indicates that the leaves were plucked. That the leaves were plucked in the orthodox method when very young, then withered and rolled carefully. Some finished tea leaves have a golden or silvery color on one tip. They generally have very special, complex case. A very special, complex taste. There is no universal system of grading tea, so a leaf may well receive one grade in China, another in Ceylon, and a third in India. Peko, P-E-K-O-E. One result of this crazy quilt of standards is a puzzling grading expression. Peko, the term which rhymes with gecko, not Rico, comes from the Chinese word for white hair, describing the downy tips of the young leaf buds. Yet, it is used to describe only Indian and Ceylon teas, never Chinese, and it refers not to down or tips, but rather to the presence of whole leaves. Orange peko, another frequently used and misleading term, has nothing to do with color or flavor. Early Dutch traders used it to imply nobility. It refers to the Dutch House of Orange. Both peko and orange peko are often misused on tea labels to imply flavor rather as an indication of actual quality. Now we have a little slight side section titled Tea Grading and Terminology, an abbreviated glossary. Orange peko, parentheses, OP, a fancy grade of full leaf tea showing no tip but nice thin leaves rolled lengthwise. Tippy golden flowery orange peko, TGFOP, the absolute top grade usually assigned to full leaf Indian teas from Darjeeling and Assam. Slightly lesser leaves review fewer letters, GFOP. Occasionally, the numeral 1 or 2 will follow the letters, signifying an even finer grading among similar leaves. Broken orange peko, BOP, a broken or smaller leaf, a step below the full leaf, can also be characterized as tippy, golden, flowery, or any combination of those terms. Fannings, F, very small broken leaves, about the size of a pinhead. Fannings may be produced by either orthodox or CTC methods. CTC fannings are chunkier in shape. Dust, D, literally the bottom of the chest or barrel, the smallest broken leaf left over in the manufacturing and sifting process, also known as sweepings, although, contrary to rumor, not swept off the floor. Peko fannings PF, and echo dust, PD. Both terms describe teas produced using the CTC method, specifically for better quality tea bags. They are grainy or even chunky, infuse and color quickly, and tend to be white aromatic. Now back to our chapter. Green teas are graded in a different manner. The highest quality green teas consist of a bud and one leaf, following in descending order by a bud and two leaves, a bud and 3 leaves, and so on. Blended teas. Most packaged tea sold in stores outside our republic, whether loose or in tea bags, is a blend of many different teas harvested from different flushes in different estates, and even different countries. The concept is not new. In the 1700s and 1800s, it was fashionable to store different varietals of fine unblended tea leaves in separate tea caddies and blend them in the pot. For instance, Assam from India and Kemoon from China for a brisk breakfast blend. Partly to suit this acquired taste, and partly because the quality and taste of leaves from a single tea garden vary from crop to crop and season to season. Tea merchants began blending their products to smooth out the inherent variations and to overcome shortages created by seasonal production and poor harvests. This practice is directly comparable to the practice of, going to butcher this word, is people who blend wine or something. Vintners, Vintners, who blend grapes from several vineyards to produce an acceptable but undistinguished generic wine. In the 17th through 19th centuries, unscrupulous tea blenders sometimes mixed their products with dried used tea leaves, leaves from other plants, or even sawdust. This practice eventually led to laws that protect citizens from adulterated teas. There's an excerpt on this page which says, "The United States Tea Act of 1897 was passed to ensure quality and purity standards and fitness for consumption of all teas imported into the United States, originally intended to protect consumers from inferior quality dust teas that had been masked or cut with non-tea ingredients. The act has been amended several times but remains in force today. The U.S. government still maintains a small board of tea experts and tea examiners responsible for inspecting every shipment of tea that enters the United States. The invention of tea bags. The tea bag was invented in America as a marketing gambit in 1908 when tea merchant John Sullivan decided to distribute his samples in hand-sewn cloth sacks. Those bags contained fine quality full-leaf teas, and customers discovered they could put the samples, bags and all, directly into teapots. The bags were just large enough to let the teas fully expand and infuse properly. Customers enjoyed the pre-measured bags, which were convenient and simplified removal of leaves from the teapot. Sullivan's unwitting innovation led to the most damaging development in modern tea history: a single-serve tea bag. To brew a single cup of tea as opposed to a pot requires a smaller tea bag, which in turn requires smaller leaves to facilitate proper brewing. This was a boon to restaurants, which generally serve hot water at 190 degrees Fahrenheit, significantly lower than the boiling point of 212 degrees Fahrenheit needed to properly infuse full-leaf tea. Only a tea bag filled with tea dust, produced a dark, strong-tasting cup in water below the boiling point. However, using smaller leaves or leaf fragments means compromising the taste of a full leaf. As demand for tea bags increased, tea growers produced greater yields of less quality tea that could be cut, torn, crushed, and stuffed into packets. We have another insert from The Minister of Leaves. There is the size of the leaf, its unique shape, its unique color, its unique fragrance, a taste all its own, and it changes sip by sip. How tea is sold. After tea has been graded, it is packed into chests that weigh between 40 and 75 pounds each. The chests are assigned to lots or chops. Although these chests aren't standard in weight, the chops are. A chop or seal identifies an individual, a family, or a trademark. By extension, it also refers to an entire batch or lot of tea. Envelopes of leaf samples are distributed throughout the world to buyers and brokers who cup the teas, taste them, and compare their smell, taste, and appearance to those of other teas and to general standards. The tea is then offered directly to the buyer or contributed to an auction list where it will be sold with other chops of teas. Auctions are held weekly in London and Calcutta. The finest teas are produced in very limited quantities of as little as 200 kilograms, which can be 3 to 5 chests, which translates to about 2,000 individual tins of tea. They are often purchased immediately or even by advance bid, as with wine futures. The price of tea. Fine full-leaf teas are priced by the growers and are not subject to negotiation. Give me one moment, please. ahead, I believe we shall only be doing chapter 1 today. So, if anyone listens in live, I will be adjusting the title of this video later. It may fetch between $8 and $60 a kilogram, or even more. Once in a while, as with fine wine, an extraordinary tea comes along and commands a price some would call outrageous, but which seems entirely logical to the overjoyed buyer. Average quality teas, considered more of a commodity like soybeans or coffee, are sold at auction. They may cost as little as $1 a kilogram. Today, buying tea is a very affordable luxury. Especially when calculated by the cost per cup. A pound of leaf tea will produce about 200 cups. So even a very rare tea will produce, So even a very rare tea priced at $100 a pound costs a mere 50 cents per cup. Tea. Preparing tea for drinking is one of life's simplest and most satisfying pleasures. Yet, making a pot of full-leaf tea without the aid of tea bags remains a challenge to many new arrivals to the Republic, not to mention the millions still stranded outside our borders. In fact, making tea is as simple as you want it to be. Here are two Here are two approaches. One explicit, one intuitive. Choose one or discover your own path. The Minister of Progress's method. Some tea lovers say one should keep a minimum of 3 teapots, one for black tea, one for green tea, and one for scented blends, but others make fine tea with a single humble pot. In any case, take care not to clean the teapot with scouring powders or even soap or detergent. A good rinse with clean water will suffice. Water quality is important. The subtler SUBTLR. SUBTLER. The more subtle the flavor of the tea, the more influence the taste of the water will have. If you are dissatisfied with the tea you've brewed, the fault may lie not in the leaves, but in the water's impurities. Try a good quality bottled water, or filter your tap water to experience an improvement. Water temperature is important. Black tea should be made with water that has been brought to a full rolling boil and then immediately poured into the pot or cup. Green tea, which is more delicate and subtle. This is how you spell that. Wait a minute, I gotta read back up. Subtle. responds best to water that has been brought up just to the boiling point, no further. Utensils can make a difference. The pot, infuser, and cup contribute to the overall experience of your brew. Before adding leaves or boiling water, warm the pot by swishing around a little hot water inside it. Before I move forward, I continue on the next page, I am going to read the shortened version. Oh, that's not what this is. I'm going to finish reading this whole section, then go back. And this is still underneath the Minister of Progress's method. How much tea? Use about 1 level teaspoon of full leaf tea per cup. They say that should equate to 1.5 per 2 grams. And that I am not sure if that is per cup as in cup that you have, or cup as in 8 ounces. British tea merchants invented the notion of adding a teaspoon for the pot to create a stronger tea that would be diluted with milk and perhaps to sell more tea as well. How long to infuse? The typical infusion for full leaf black tea should last 4 to 5 minutes. Green teas and smaller leaf black teas require less time, about 3 minutes. Fine oolong teas with their very large leaves can brew for 7 to 10 minutes without becoming bitter. On the other hand, tea bags filled with fannings or dust infuse very quickly, sometimes in as little as 30 seconds. Removing the leaves from the liquid at the proper time is important to avoid overbrewing or stewing the leaves. This is easily accomplished by pouring the tea through a mesh or bamboo strainer, or by using a teapot with a removable infusing basket that fits inside the neck of the pot. The latter makes it particularly easy to remove the used leaves from the pot, allowing for the enjoyment of a second cup. Infusers also simplify cleaning up and the disposal of the leaves. If you use a wire mesh tea ball, take care to fill it only halfway, as the leaves will double in size as they steep. Avoid perforated metal eggs because not enough water can circulate around the leaves. How many infusions? Black teas lend themselves to a single infusion and are discarded after an individual cup or pot is made. Most green teas are also used just once, although some are suited to several consecutive swift 1-minute infusions. Finer oolong teas are generally infused a couple times and may even be infused as many as 7 times using the same leaves. The Chinese say you derive different pleasures from each successive infusion. Now, that section was the Minister of Progress's method on brewing teas. Seemed very lengthy, didn't it? Now, if you would like a shorter, more concise method, here is the Minister of Leaves' method. Boil water, infuse leaves, drink tea. That is it. That is all. Now we have an insert from The Song of Tea, Lu Tong, or by Lu Tong, Chinese poet, 8th century AD. The first bowl sleekly moistened throat and lips. The second banished all my loneliness. The third expelled the dullness from my mind, sharpening inspiration gained from all the books I've read. The fourth brought forth light perspiration, dispersing the lifetime's trouble through my pores. The fifth bowl cleansed every atom of my being. The sixth has made me kin to the immortals. This seventh is the utmost I can drink. A light breeze issues from my armpits. Ooh, we have another insert. Two methods for making iced tea. Method A. Prepare a double-strength infusion of hot tea, strain and let cool to room temperature. Pour into glasses filled with ice cubes. Method B. This method requires a bit more of a wait, but produces a clearer liquid. Prepare a regular strength infusion using cold water instead of boiling water. Stir well and refrigerate overnight. Stir again and serve without ice. Tasting tea. Only the tea drinker can say whether the tea is well made. Nevertheless, a few general guidelines apply. Leaf. To repeat, the larger the leaf, the better in general. Tea buyers look for the presence of tip, consistency, and evenness. They also evaluate the twist of the rolled leaf, wiry. I believe that's how that word is pronounced. It's spelled W-I-R-Y. And well twisted or favorable terms. Liqueur. This has to do not with alcoholic spirits, but rather with the color of the infusion. Tea tasters assess clarity, brightness of color, and general aesthetic appearance. Fine black teas are sometimes classified as coppery or bright in appearance. Aroma. The nose of a tea says a lot about its age. Older teas lose their lively natural fragrance over time. With a little experience, one can learn to detect subtle variations of fragrance. A smoky aroma is called tarry, Tarry. A well-fired Assam tea may be said to smell biscuity. Ordinary green tea has comparatively little aroma to black tea. Taste. Clean and brisk are desirable. Flat, dull, and sweaty are objectionable. Tasters seek complex flavor characteristics: flowery, woody, malty, pungent, and evaluate the tea's body or strength. A critical factor is the leaf's lack of harshness. The finer, and usually the younger, the leaf, the mellower the infusion. milk and sugar. Milk in tea is a Western European invention introduced by the Dutch in the early 1600s and popularized in France a century later. The custom took hold in Great Britain in the 1800s, where milk was used to soften the edge or astringency of robust black teas from China and India. Neither milk nor sugar is used in China or with green teas anywhere. The preferred British fashion is MIF, or milk in first. A few drops of warm milk are poured into the cup, followed by the tea. There is a practical, historical reason for this practice. It kept the scalding tea from cracking fragile porcelain cups. The British also adopted the custom of sweetening their tea with a generous amount of sugar. After Queen Victoria visited Russia, her daughter's adopted country, Britons began offering an alternative to milk, slices of lemon, in the Russian manner. In Tibet, tea is customarily churned with yak butter and other ingredients, sometimes egg, salt, sugar, crushed walnut meat, or peanuts, to yield a thick beverage called Tsampa. Tsampa. Storing tea. The taste of tea deteriorates over time as the essential oils, the volatile compounds that give tea its fragrance, evaporate from the leaves. Most manufactured black teas will remain flavorful for 18 to 24 months from the time they were harvested. Delicate first flush teas, like those from Darjeeling, lose their best notes only a few months after picking. Cut fannings and tea dust used in tea bags tend to go stale even faster. Tea Moon, an exception here as elsewhere, seems to develop new flavor characteristics over time and can actually improve with age, which is why it is sometimes called winey. Green teas are shorter lived. They are best drunk in the first 6 months after harvest. Fresh tea is hard to find. Most consumers have no idea how old the tea is when they buy it. Indeed, it may take as long as a year for tea to travel from a remote garden to an auction center into a blender's warehouse to the store shelf. Even in the Jet Age, most tea is imported by ship. In the meantime, the essential oils in the tea leaves evaporate, and the flavor gradually disappears. To keep tea tasting fresh, store the leaves in an airtight container protected from light. A tin with a tight lid is ideal. It's a good practice to mark it with the date of purchase. Always store tea in a cool, dry place, away from strong-smelling substances such as garlic or spices that can taint its flavor. And that ends Chapter 1. I hope all of you have a great rest of your day, and/or good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. I hope everything goes well, and don't forget to have fun.